Welcome to the Foreword Podcast. I'm Casey.
And I'm Pastor Ethan. Here we have real Christ-centered conversations that go beyond our regular scheduled services.
From lighthearted fun to the burdens of everyday life, we're diving into what matters most together.
So let's get into it.
This is the Foreword Podcast.
And then once membership was established, and once we started making decisions all together and getting some little committees together to work on the things here at the church, and like all of that started working really smoothly. And in my mind, at the beginning, I've always wanted a podcast, for I don't know, probably the last 15 years. I've wanted to be on a podcast. I've talked about it with other friends. We should do that. We should do this. We should do that.
That was really an in thing for a while. Not that it's not now, because it is. But for a while, it was kind of like, everyone's got a podcast.
Yeah. You know? What do you guys do? What do you guys? Well, we're on a podcast.
Yeah.
There's a podcast about anything. Like you can watch or listen to a podcast literally about anything out there. Some things might bore other people, but whatever you're into, you can find a podcast. And so I was like, well, I like to talk about things. So I would love to.
I'm a talker.
Yeah.
I like to talk.
Yeah.
It's no different than a radio show, though.
I love to talk.
Yeah. Like my grandpa back in the day, he'd take naps in his barn, and it cracked me up. It's just like a core memory. Come home from school and I hear the radio going in the barn, and I'd go out there and he'd be he had an old recliner out there and he'd be napping in it. And Larry's asleep. But he always had these talk shows on. And I remember my dad would listen to talk shows sometime too on the radio. So that was pre-podcast, of course. But
that's what it is.
Women obviously listen to podcasts too, but it's definitely a male thing. Even our podcast radio, on Spotify and stuff, 100% of the listeners on, I think one of our shorts was male. It's just funny, and I've heard other podcasters say that, but it's a predominantly, it seems like a male thing. And it's I just remember all the guys in my life back in the day always listened to this talk show radio. And so now, millennials here, we've got podcasts.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It really is. It's just evolved from the talk radio. I've always wanted to be on one, like you said, who hasn't, that sort of thing. Maybe some people don't have the desire, but maybe midway or at the beginning of this year. Again, that sounds so crazy to think that it's only been a year, but
February.
At the beginning of this year, I was like, man, Lord, this is something that I've have wanted to be a part of. Thankfully I had kind of acquired some stuff to start recording with. And
quite the stuff.
Yeah, just some odds and ends and a few things and some mics, and because I like to mess around with music as well. And more of it was for that. And then I just felt like the Lord was I was like, Lord, I'd listened to another church. They had done a recap of one of their sermons. And I was like, that would be really great to for people that miss Bible study or just to be able to talk maybe more than what time would allow in Bible study, or to maybe hit on some things that maybe nobody asked any questions about, or just whatever. It's just take it a little bit further,
because people don't ask questions, but they have questions.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe trying to predict a space where I can predict the questions that people will have, which I try and do that anyway during Bible study. Yeah. But you don't always think about everything. And so it's kind of like an opportunity, or that's what I was thinking. This will be kind of an opportunity to go further into some verses, deeper into a passage of some sort.
Plus, I really want to do a podcast, and I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really felt like the Lord called me to ask you, would you want to be a part of a podcast? And I don't know why. I guess it was because, the Lord knew why. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know why you'd ask me either.
But I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that we talked a bunch.
No.
Before the podcast.
No, probably just so. Back in the day, we used to have assigned greeters that would be at the doors. There was always a head usher. Back in the Methodist days, we'd have a head usher, and their job every month, you'd have a head usher, and their job was to get, this is on a tangent, but you'd have a head usher, and their job was to get all the people for the whole month. So you'd have a bell ringer, acolytes, you'd have two front door greeters, and a side door greeter. And so everyone had like an assigned job for that month. And then the offering, like the ushers. And so like then we went through like this like weird COVID era, and then we went through an era where we didn't have like somebody assigned as a head usher, so you'd like sign up, no one would ever sign up, you know. So I always ended up being like the person. So I just like established myself as sort of like the front door greeter.
Well, and that kind of goes back to the why. Like, in everything that we do for the Lord, we need to ask ourselves, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So structure is great in the idea that, hey, as long as it's answering the question, hey, we're using this to glorify the Lord, I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
But like you're talking about, like it seems like the heart of
it was gone.
Was like, well, why do we do this?
Yeah. So we kind of just like gotten away from it. It like fell apart.
Yeah.
So I just like kind of
became the
number
one,
the greeter at the door, and like just because I felt like I'm like there's no one here. There needs to be.
Yeah.
And it wasn't out of obligation. Like I wanted to, you know, greet people as they came in, but I was like, well, I guess I'm doing this. So like I would stand there, and other people, you know, everyone has a role, right? So some people mill around and talk to people, or I like kind of plant myself there at the door. And so like you would come in at like 5 till.
Yeah.
And so I just talked to you then, but that was basically it.
Yeah.
I think the first time you ever messaged me, you sent me like a YouTube song or something.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was something I thought that you might need to listen to or something.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that was really the only interaction that we really had was like that 5 minutes.
I didn't know much about you other than like I knew you weren't married. We were kind of in a similar situation in life, just trying to figure things out, and I was like, well, it might be an opportunity to get to know more people. Obviously, to be an opportunity to get to know Casey more. And so I just asked him, you know, and I felt like that's what the Lord wanted me to do. I asked him, hey, do you want to be on this podcast? And you know, from your perspective, like, how did you feel about being asked, for one? Or what, did it just seem audacious?
No, it was, you know, it was the oddest thing. So like, you sent me a message on Messenger, and you're like, I can't remember. We were talking about something else, actually. I think you were in the midst of maybe moving into the parsonage, or you were going to. I can't remember. So we had a conversation about something else. So it wasn't totally random. And then you were like, hey, by the way, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. Would you be interested in doing it? And immediately I was like, yes. And then I'm like, what did you just do? Like, 'cause that's not my gig, right? Like, I love podcasts, but I'm like, I cannot imagine myself sitting down and like actually like talking about stuff that affects me, you know, closed book here, right?
Yeah.
And also just like people are going to be listening to things that I have to say. Like people told me all the time, like you should get up and talk more. Like you should get up and say this or that more. And like I have thoughts on things, but it's like who wants to hear them? You know, people tell me that, but I'm just like I don't know. So when you asked, I'm like, out of all the people in the world, like, but this is all stuff I thought to myself afterwards.
Yeah,
like in the moment, I was like, absolute. Like it was the clearest. Like absolutely. Like. Yes, I'm going to do this. And then I'm like, why did you just say you do it? But I was excited about it too. You know, it was like a mixed emotion thing, you know, It's like, yeah, I'm like really excited to do this. I think it's going to be really cool. Also, what the heck are you doing? Like, this seems crazy. Like, this isn't you at all. So it was just interesting.
Yeah. I think that I think the Lord has really used as an opportunity, number one, obviously to grow our relationship. We've been pretty transparent about that along the way. Just like, hey, if we only do this just for, you know, iron to sharpen iron, for us to get together and just talk and talk about what the Lord's, you know, placed on our hearts, then fine. We've always been fine with that. Mm-hmm. But I think like you've come out of your shell a little bit more, probably a lot bit more, to be honest with you.
It reminds me of when I started working at the IGA. It's a funny example, but like you'll enjoy the story. For our listeners, like talk to Lori Miller. She will flat out tell you the story because we laugh about it all the time.
Yes, and thank God Clay City still has an IGA.
Yes.
You know, I love that place.
Like I did not want a job there. Like it had nothing to do with the store. I did not want to have a job. It was in the middle of my junior year in college. My grandpa, who likes to meddle, Larry, he went down to the store because he was hanging out with Dawn, and he went down the store, and Lori was down there working because Russ and Lori, you know, I'm going to give a shout out to them. Like they were owners that were in the store every single day working. Like the reason that store is successful is because they have people in there that were actually doing the work. They weren't sitting somewhere else. But she was working, and my grandpa comes in and he's like, "Hey, Lori, do you have any positions available?" And she's like, "Actually, I need a cashier. You want a job, Larry?" And he's like, "No, I need a job for Casey." And so she's like, "Well, have him come in, fill out an application, and we'll, set up an interview or whatever." And so I come home from school, and he's like, "Hey, like, go down to the IGA and get an application because I talked to Lori and, like, I'm getting you a job." And I was so mad. Like, Like, news to me. I did not want to work anywhere. I didn't want to do any of that. And I'll tell you what, I worked there for 8 years, and that was the best job that I probably had ever had because, one, I was totally forced to get out of my shell. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, you're working with the public. Like, I met so many people. But just like the opportunities that I had there to like get out and do stuff and like go from a cashier to managing the store to being able to run it to like dealing with vendors to like, I mean, they flew me to Orlando to go to a conference. Like we went to Disney, like just all these cool different experiences that were neat. But like that totally broke me out of this shell that I was in.
Yeah.
But that was in like the outside world.
Yeah.
That wasn't like in the church. So I always felt like I was this.
Yeah, not in your spiritual life.
Yeah, it was such a weird dynamic too because like I think people in the church saw me as like super shy, but then like they knew me outside of the church where I really wasn't that shy because I was so used to dealing with people, like especially at the store.
Yeah.
Like I can handle stuff like that. I can go to work. I can be in a meeting with executives and talk about whatever I need to talk about. I'm not like too shy to do that,
Yeah.
But it's like when you have to sit down and be like, okay, let me tell you about how the Lord's working in my life. Let me tell you about my feelings. Let me tell you how I'm doing well or not doing well.
Yeah.
That's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, a completely different because we're talking about eternal things, not just, obviously the IGA was a momentary thing.
Yeah.
It lasted for as long as it lasted. And I really sit in the camp of I think every kid should work in retail.
Absolutely.
Or not retail. What's the word? Like where they have to interact with customers.
Yeah, just work with the public.
Yeah, work with the public to some sort of degree for some amount of time because it is very valuable to get out there and see the other types of people that are out there in the world.
Yeah.
It just helps you to become an adult.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, it helps you to go from, hey, I'm just a kid that likes to sit around in my bedroom to, being a little bit more, out of your shell.
Yeah. And the pod, came at an interesting time for me because, there's nobody in the church, especially at that time, that was my age. So everyone was significant. Even when I was growing up, we've got some people that were like a few years younger than me. But for the most part, everyone was either like my mom's age or they were significantly younger. Like even like going through Sunday school, we talk about like when we have homecomings and stuff, they talk about like my grandma was a Sunday school teacher for years and she would always have these like huge Sunday school classes. Like she'd have the junior class, the senior class, and they would come out. Like I remember as a kid, she would have the youth group and she'd have the Sunday school kids come out and we're talking like 20 kids or more and they bring their friends. And so I was used to like, we would have these huge high school classes.
Yeah.
And by the time I came around, they'd all graduate and there was nobody my age.
Yeah.
So even if there wasn't a Sunday school class for me, there wasn't anyone my age to talk to about anything, or they were like there's people that I could have, talked to, like I could have talked to Dave or whatever, but everyone was in a different stage in life than I was.
I'd love to do a podcast sometimes about why people aren't going to church.
Oh yeah, that'd be it.
Because it's a similar for me, growing up in youth groups, like you actually had them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting thing. Like you actually had youth groups and, it'd probably be controversial to talk about what's replaced that, but I think it'd be a great podcast to talk about.
Yeah. Like we had turned our basement at the church. When we built the fellowship hall, we turned it into a youth space because it was still a nice space. It's not like it was a dark, cruddy basement. It was a nice basement. And so we're like, it was a benefit. We're like, man, now we've got this great big space that we can totally just make it for youth. And so they lived out of that for a while and it was neat. And then like all the age group disappeared and now it's like, there was nobody my age in that group. So I missed out on all that. So by the time, I'm a young adult and now you're starting to have young adult problems, young adult thoughts,
Yeah.
and things that you really need kind of somebody that is your age that you can kind of, talk to. I mean, don't get me wrong. There is a lot of life experience that you need from adults. We've talked about
absolutely.
that, like you talked about that with Father's Day and how you learn something from each person. Yeah. So I'm not like negating that by any
It's every level, right?
Yeah.
We can learn something from the younger people, and we can learn something from our elders, but we can also learn from each other.
Yeah, and there's a gap there for me. There's a gap. And so that came at an interesting time in my life where I don't think I know that I needed it more than I was kind of aware of. But there came a point, which we can talk about it maybe later, but there came a point where it was very evident to me like that I was missing that. Yeah. Like very evident.
Yeah. And so that's been the great thing for me as well, is neither one of my churches really had anybody my age. And so, and at the time I was single, and going through a lot of health problems and this and that. And just, it's interesting because it was like as if I needed something else on my plate. It just felt so necessary. Yeah. To add the podcast to it, and
your co-host felt so ill-equipped because like I didn't even know like at least you had all the equipment, all the mics and stuff. I'm like, I don't know how any of this stuff
I'll
works.
just show up with my voice, I guess.
Yeah, I do the sound system at church, but it's like very bare minimum. Like no one else wants to do it, so I guess I'll figure it out. You know?
And now you do far more for the podcast than I do. I basically show up and talk, and have like recommended,
which is how we like it.
And Casey is far, and I think that's why this relationship works so well. Is Casey is like I could sit down and do this, like make this graphic that we have.
It's not real complicated.
And obviously, if you're just listening to this, you can't hear it, but. The way that Casey's able to like run with things, I think he has a heart for, designing pamphlets and like.
Yeah. It came out of necessity, but I ended up liking it.
Yeah, exactly. Because you did the bulletins, so it's like, oh well, here's this is necessary, but it's also an area where you can see that hey, the Lord grew me in that area to give me something. That I like to do as well,
and it kind of forces you to have a pulse on like everything that's happening. Like, especially like with the bulletin, like somebody will call me out if I'm missing something out of love, but they will call me out. But like, it forces you to be aware of like, when people say like, oh, I didn't know we were doing that, or I forgot about this. And I'm like, I see all. No, not really. But like, I have to be aware of everything that's happening because
they're going to catch it.
They're going to catch it, but I got to get the bulletin. I got things that people don't think about. Like, hey, we're having a service tonight. Everyone show up. I'm like, man, I guess I better have some stuff put together for that, Yeah. So it's stuff like that, but it's a blessing, though.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, that's just an area where the Lord grew you so that you could also do this as well, And like I had the equipment, and we just, I asked Casey, and he said yes. And of course, not knowing what's going on in his mind, how it's racing about, I don't, now that I've said yes, did I just make a mistake? Yeah.
What I want to know is what was going on in your mind. Like, were you like, is he actually going to say anything on this podcast?
Well, I don't know. I just, or
is it just like, whatever the Lord wants to do, he'll do it? And
I think that's it. Mm-hmm. For me, not that I'm like, just have so much faith. But for me, like if the Lord asks me to do something, I just have gotten to a point where, there are some things I still argue with him about. Absolutely. Everybody does. Everybody has things that it's like, hey, it's, if it's this or if it's that, if it's tithes, if it's giving your time, it's, and I could definitely do far more than, that's one thing. Some people might look at my life and be like, well, you got 2 churches, you got a child on the way, or you just got married, you have this podcast. Like they could look at the list of things I have going on. You have an engineering job, but I could do far more for the Lord than what I do right now. I mean, I just know that. I think everybody thinks that they're like at capacity, but nobody really wants to admit the fact that like they have, like, what about all the time I'm on Instagram? What about all the time I'm on Facebook? What about all the time I play video games? What about all of that time? Absolutely you need time to rest. That's obvious. The Bible says that. But I could be doing far more for the Lord. And I just think I know that. Yeah. And so when the Lord asks, I'm like, okay, Lord, like, it might seem like at the time, like, hey, this is going to take from me. It's going to take more time. It's going to take my resources, yada, yada. But for this is something that I loved it because it was something I wanted to do alongside of something I thought was a necessity, you know? And so when I asked you, I was like, well, he's the obvious candidate, number one, because we're about the same age. You know, I could sit here and talk to any of the church members, absolutely. But that would have the time to do that with all of their other busy schedules as well. And it just kind of felt like, you know, we were able to talk to one another a lot at the back door in church meetings, in other stuff that was going on, you know, like show me around the parsonage. I was like, well, you know,
I remember that. Like hey, who even has a key to this? Well, shocker, Casey does. So I'll
so
let you in.
You know, the Lord kind of developed that relationship early on in that sort of like, hey, at least we were, you know, cordial, comfortable with one another, that sort of thing.
Felt natural.
Yeah, and then I was just like, well, I don't know if he'll, you know, I don't know what we'll have to say. That was the thing where the faith aspect of it comes in. I don't know what it will be. I just know the Lord asked. And so if he asks, he's going to be in it as long as you stay with the idea that, hey, this is for him. Like, this is not for me to run with my own ideas. This is not a creative space for me to talk about politics or, you know, we keep it very much in the vein of what it is for. It is here to talk about what does the Bible say about things.
You know what gets me the most for myself is just the fact that it never crossed my mind to say no. And like that's definitely the Holy Spirit because like you would have thought because after saying yes, I was like, what are you doing? But it still never crossed my mind to be like no or whatever.
Back out of it now.
That is so not me. That is so not me to say like to not say no to that. Because I would have been like hesitation, you know, and like I said afterwards I was like, oh well, I'm gonna do this thing that I've never done before and it scares me to death to like get up and, you know, but
that's faith. You know, all the time that's faith.
It's like when you asked me to teach Bible study that Sunday. Like I remember you called me and you were like, hey, like I can't do it this and I really don't want to miss this second Tuesday. Is there any way you could teach Bible study? And it was like the same thing. Immediately I was like, absolutely I'll do it. And then I'm like, oh yay, you know? And it's funny because it's like afterwards in my mind it's like, yeah, you know, I'd like run through a wall for you if you asked me to do it, but like you're asking me to teach Bible study, and so I'm like, that's a little different.
Like, a little bit different than just, hey, can you print this thing off, or can you know?
So, but again, it never crossed my mind to say no. I remember saying yes, and then like hanging up and being like, thanks, thanks, man.
But I think what we're really talking about here is the thing that I've experienced in my life, and many people have experienced, is like the Lord makes you useful in smaller things so that he can ask you to be useful in bigger things. You know, like as far as, and some people may look at the smaller things and be like, that's beyond me. You know, like, unfortunately, that's the way some people think. Like, I'm not going to do that. That's beyond me, you know. But even the smallest of things, like when the Lord asks, it's because he has some sort of plan, you know. And so when the yeses come from having said yes to other things. That's generally how it happens, right? So like you said, anybody that knows Casey and his role in this church, he's said yes to many things. And so the smaller yeses have, which actually some of those yeses take a lot more of your time, but
they do.
But those have led to some of the bigger yeses, like, oh yeah, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. And that's just faithfulness. Like,
and the Lord will provide joy in those things. It's not a burden. It feels heavy sometimes. I mean, it really does. But
absolutely.
But when you look back at it, you're like, look, that brought me a lot of joy. Like teaching the Bible study, I was like, never done anything like that before. Not in a room full of adults. Like I taught some Sunday school classes here and there, and I have lessons with people younger than me. But like to teach a room, like to teach John something out of the Bible, to think like. But you know, there's where the graciousness of like having like unity in the church is. Like I'm teaching them something that they might know it or they might not know it, but then they have that feedback, and there's like you can feel the love between the people that you're teaching and what you're doing, so it doesn't feel as burdensome as you think it's going to feel. Like because there's this back and forth, even if no one else is even saying anything, you still feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. You feel the engagement.
Yeah.
And
That makes a difference.
so it's not that's the other thing. I think the one of the reasons why this podcast has survived is because it may have been strange the first couple, but it's like you start to realize, oh, the Lord's in this. Like he wants us to do this. And there, though I may not feel like it this night, or though I may have something else going on, or whatever it is, like during and after, you realize, oh yeah, there was a reason why I needed to be here today. Like there's a reason why the Lord asked me to do this.
And like when I'm editing the podcast and I have to go back through and listen to our 2-hour podcast for the second time. But there's things that happen though that I'm like, I don't remember saying that, or I don't remember you saying that. And I'm like, man, I needed to hear that because I don't know that I heard it in the podcast when we were talking about it. Or like you were talking about something and then later, and I was in my mind thinking, oh, that's a good point. I'm gonna say something about this. Yeah. And then I go back later and I listen to it. And I'm like, okay, now I'm hearing it. It's kind of like where you talk about that you when you preach, you also need it for yourself. You're not just speaking, like you're also needing it. I get that from the pod sometimes. Not because I like to hear myself talk, but because I'm like, I didn't realize I made that point, or I didn't know. I didn't hear you say that. Now, where did that come from?
And you realize like the Holy Spirit's in there more than what you think.
Yeah.
I think that's the beautiful thing about listening back to these is like, wow, like the Lord. Sometimes you talk and it's just like the Lord comes out. You know,
and it makes a difference too. Like you said, like we started out in this. And I think you're going to talk about this here, but
that's what I'm getting ready to talk about.
I wish we had a picture of there it is. You can kind of see the chair there that I used to sit in.
Yeah, if you're that's why we said at the beginning this might be one that you probably should watch versus
which is now available on Spotify for video. So I'll just plug that.
Yeah, even if you're on Spotify, as long as you're not in your car.
Yeah, please don't watch it and drive.
Well, it won't let you.
Oh, well there you
go. If it's connected to Apple Play, or then it won't let you see it on there.
There you go.
But yeah, now you can watch on Spotify, which is great. But to get into a little bit of the background here. So this is when I asked Casey, and we didn't know what this would turn into at all.
Yeah. But
there was this office that I used it from time to time because I was single at the time, and so I'd come in here and I'd practice my guitar.
So you'd work on your guitar.
I worked on some guitars in here. Sometimes I'm sure Casey walked in here and was like, "This place is a disaster." But
I come in to print the bulletins on that copy machine that's sitting there, and I'm like, "Did
something laid over the top of there?
Did bro move in? Like, what is happening?"
But yeah, this is where this is the same room. You can see like here's this chair rail trim that goes around the whole thing. But yeah, we started. Here's the chair that Casey sat in. You can kind of see it, and he just pulled it up into this area. And I had, you couldn't see us at the time, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But I had this really small, like 6-channel mixer, and I had an audio box, which is basically how you get the mix into the computer.
Yeah.
And we just started recording, and thankfully by the goodness of God, we've only I think lost one because we didn't hit record.
Yeah,
right?
It was a good one too. I don't remember what we talked about,
yes,
but like we were locked
for 55 minutes.
We were locked in
about something, and then had to because we never hit record, or because it stopped recording.
I think we didn't hit record.
Something, yeah. And then we had to go back and try and remember what we said. And
and it wasn't as good the second time.
No.
I mean, we were locked in on that first one. I was so bummed.
But, you got to go with God. And there's a reason for maybe why we didn't.
Maybe we said something
It was
dumb.
just for us. Maybe it was just for us.
I'll tell you what, that desk would have withstood a nuclear blast. I mean, that thing was heavy.
Sturdy. We sold that in the rummage sale, I think.
Yeah.
Which is, and that just speaks to one thing I love about this church is just their willingness to get behind, like, whatever we want to do. Like the fact that they, like, listen to this. They sold the pastor's chair and desk. What if... What if I die and the next pastor doesn't want to do a podcast?
Yeah.
Like, is this just his desk and chairs now?
Yeah.
I don't know. But to me, it's like part of the idea, there's that song Burn the Ships by
For King and Country.
Right, For King and Country. It's like, hey, let's not, like, we don't always have to just live in the past, like the way things are going.
Yeah.
The idea of burning the ships is like, hey, when you get to a place that's uncharted, if you burn the ships, there's no turning back. You got to make it work, And maybe they don't think about it that way. I don't know.
But
for me, it's like they willingly sold. What did we do with the chair?
I put it over. Well, I was trying to figure out what to do with the chair. I'm like, this is a really nice chair, but I don't know what to do with it. And you know what's funny is we had remodeled the nursery.
Oh yeah, that's a great chair.
Like probably a couple years, a couple months prior to doing this. And I had thought to myself, like, hey, I got a rocking chair in here, but I need another actual chair.
Yeah, like a sitting chair.
And I was cleaning one day, and I walked past it, and there was this empty spot, and I'm like,
it's chair
that's
size.
where that chair is going to go.
Hole.
So I drug that out of here and threw it in the back of my truck and drove it over to the church, and it's perfect, and it gets used.
Yeah, and so that's the great thing. So this is where we started, and basically Casey sat a foot lower than me down in this chair
with a mic that was on an arm that
just kind of came over to close to his face. And
I kept my stuff down on the floor.
Yeah. Bible, water, anything was just down on the floor.
And I was way down. If you can see me, I was way down here, and Ethan was way up here.
Yeah.
So when we were talking, I'd be looking up at him.
yeah, that part was a little.
I felt like a little kid.
Like we gotta figure this out.
Yeah.
Because we're co-hosts. It's not just it's not just. You probably sometimes feel like a principal.
I know. I was thinking that I'm in trouble. Like, okay, now speak.
Yeah. And one thing that I think we talked about not too long ago that we always prioritized though is, and I think our audio is comparable to any even sometimes it's hard to get the S's out, right? We have a de-esser, which is basically it's part of the mix to where you don't hear that like when somebody says something like sauna,
Sauna.
and you can hear those S's come through, but it's far worse in reality because we have a pop filters on the mics and all this. Like it's all podcasting.
I have enough issues speaking anyway, clearly.
Yeah.
So I need all the filters that I can get.
But there's so even when I listen to podcasts that are a far greater production value than us, you can still hear the S's. So we've always tried to prioritize if we're gonna do it, it needs to sound good. Mm-hmm. And so even with what the Lord had provided for us, which is stuff I had been acquiring for 3 years or something, I think it sounded great at the beginning. But the situation wasn't great because we're in this office. The lighting would just randomly affect the mic sometimes.
Yeah, they'd buzz.
And they would buzz, and there would be just there was no consistency, it seemed like sometimes, because welcome to find out the lighting's messing.
It was almost like we were doing a podcast in our garage in a way.
Yeah.
We had decent equipment, but the space, the environment we were in was impacting it.
And the equipment wasn't really made we were recording with these great little mics. They were actually for recording guitar. That you can just put up to the sound hole of a guitar.
Which this is a good plug that the intros and the outros that you hear are Ethan playing with that equipment. I think that's what you use to record it. Sounds really good. There's an awesome little what do you call it at the end?
A bluesy sort of riff on the lead guitar.
Like we've talked about, maybe in the new year changing up our intros and outros a little bit, especially now that we're on video, we can actually kind of tie that in together. But we can't really lose that little riff at the end, because
I sat right here in this chair at this desk and played all of that.
Yeah, that's a good little riff.
And realistically, it just came from, I think you had talked about a song that we
talked about, In the Light by DC Talk.
And so I played In the Light on one of the intros or something, or one of the outros of the song, and I was like, I should just make a intro and outro. So we've kind of ironed out things and really what I love is not only has the church kind of just allowed us to say, okay, if you guys want to move that around or whatever you need that space to be, go for it. The Lord also has given us space to do we didn't have to bring it to this point.
Yeah,
we could have stayed right here in this office with what we had, but we really felt to me, I shouldn't say we, but I think I speak for Casey. I didn't want it to just be that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. It wasn't like the content was any different. We were speaking right out of the Bible about the things. But what I know is if you're more comfortable in general, it's just just things work out better.
Well, David said one time, and it kind of got me when he said it, because we had him on early as a guest, and it was the same setup. We pulled a chair out of the kitchen, and he sat next to me.
That was so awkward because he was way up here.
He was up here. I was down here. You were over there.
And you guys were sharing a mic in between you.
Yeah, it was wild. But he said, this is a ministry. And I remember you said, man, I didn't even think of it like that. Like, really? I mean, we did, but we had, like, we must have in some way, because
it's kind of a separate thing, because we're reaching people outside of our church.
Yeah,
you know, it's its own ministry.
I mean, I've got people now that I know that are listening that I didn't think would listen, that have asked me about it, and now they're listening, and that kind of fuels me even more now, because I'm like, we're reaching people that otherwise maybe wouldn't have had interaction with the church at all, or with the gospel, or anything. So. Yeah, that was cool. But he said that was a ministry, and he was sitting right there on the left of that desk, and I was sitting 2 feet below him.
In case he was in a chair over here. But, that's where we started. And to me, there's always just been a draw to, like, what can we do to improve? Yeah. What can we do to make this better? And just a desire to do so. Like I said, whether part of that, what I love is that sometimes God encourages you to do things, and then sometimes he lets you do what you want to do and blesses it. Right. And so I think this pod has always been a mixture of that. Like, the Lord wants to do it, but he's also given us the freedom to mix what we want to do in there with it, and has blessed it, And I think that's wonderful. Sometimes, I think of a very specific example in the Bible where David goes to the Lord and says, hey, I want to build you a tabernacle. The Ark of the Covenant's in a tent, and I'm dwelling in this beautiful palace, basically, and I want to build you a tabernacle. And the Lord just says no. Like, that's your desire, and it's a good desire, but no. But then there's other times when that's your desire, and the Lord's like, I can use that desire, and I can bless that desire. And I think that's the way that this podcast has gone. And I don't think we sitting in these chairs ever would have thought that we would have like a cool table, and then we come to find out the church had money donated for audio and visual, and so it was just like, what? That's awesome, because some of the stuff we want to do, like, we don't,
and it wasn't just for the pod,
everything was out of pocket at that point.
And we were able to take some of that and also use that in the sanctuary for like some upgraded like audio for being able to record the sermons and things like that. So it wasn't like it just benefited the podcast. I mean, like, it helped. I mean, to be honest, like, the sound system over in the sanctuary, even though it's older, is good.
Those speakers, just those 2 speakers, are great.
They're 10 times better than what we have in the fellowship hall, and they're significantly newer. So it's like, but we were able to take some, like, we have an audio box over there.
Taking what we learned from this and taking it over in the sanctuary to make our. And then, now that we've reached our 50 subscribers, we're going to be on live.
We recorded live last year. Yeah.
That's some of the plans for 2026. Oh, we were live on
Yeah,
YouTube?
And it wasn't something that I advertised super heavy, because I was trying to, like, kind of get a feel for how it worked.
Absolutely.
And I didn't have the better camera that I was using. But we were able to live stream the service. So, I mean, that's something that moving into 2026.
Were you able to connect the two, like, YouTube? We're live on YouTube, but they could see it on Facebook?
I just linked it to Facebook, so they could click on the link on Facebook,
and then it would take them
to live. But it took the sound from the audio box. So instead of being like before, it was recording from the camera, and you were only picking up.
Not good.
Yeah, now it's picking the sound directly out of the sound system. So
as long as you're in front of a microphone.
So that's a small change, but that just shows, like, in 2026, we're moving in that direction of being able to actually have like a Sunday morning, almost like a production, like a live service. Yeah. Because now I can do overlays on videos, and
absolutely, which we think is absolutely beneficial for people that just, like, you can't make it that Sunday, or you're sick or whatever. Like, you can still get fed. You know, you can still watch, which is great. Also gives us an opportunity to look back at things and see, like, how can we make this better? How
through the eyes of others.
And I think that was kind of where we're at some point, sitting in this in this era. Is like, well, how can we make this more comfortable for us, so that we're more comfortable, and then we're able to talk more more fluidly out of that. And And I was like, dude, what I would love to do is like we'll get a table, we'll get some chairs, and thankfully, like there was that money that the church had set aside, and we were like, can we use that? We want to do a podcast, and everybody was on board with it. And I mean, I think there were some people that probably didn't understand what a podcast was. To be honest with you, and there were other people that were like, why does our church of need
to do a podcast?
60 people need a podcast. But
I'll say that's one thing about our church, though. Like growing up in the church, like I've always felt like very rarely have I ever had anyone in the congregation just flat out say like, no, Casey, like you can't do this. Like and I'm not saying that because it's me. I just mean like they always have felt like, I mean, like if you're like, hey, I feel like this is something that like the Lord's wanting me to do, they're pretty much always just like, you know.
Yeah, if that's what you feel like the Lord's gonna
do what you need to do. And I've kind of grown into that, knowing like hey, the people here have my back. And so whenever we're like, hey, like we want to do a podcast, like we think this will be a really cool thing, I was like, I really believe that. Like when they said like, okay, I believe it was genuine. Like okay, because I'd experienced that before, and I had some crazy ideas, that I would do things all the time, like growing up, like that they'd be like, okay,
whatever.
You want to paint that room? You want to paint the choir loft purple? Okay.
Yeah, royalty of Christ.
I know it's been blue for the last 120 years, but Casey wants to paint it purple, so whatever,
And obviously, if you follow our Instagram, you've already seen this. But it's Casey. This is a video. This is where it all started. And so this is really how it started. The problem is like, I think most people understand that podcast, or we actually had a bunch of people. We'd like to see you as well. Yeah. Which I'd always thought like in the future that's where we want to head anyway.
Yeah.
And so the furniture we bought was like, hey, we need to make sure this is like nice stuff. Now, I will say for anybody that like thinks, hey, my church could never do this, or like that just seems all far too expensive. Like this is just Amazon stuff. These chairs are like $35 a piece.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like super premium stuff.
We didn't have a designer come in and like put this space together.
No, but it's good and it's sturdy stuff. And these mics, this comes in a pack for $47. Which maybe we can talk sometime about our equipment. But like these are great mics. Yeah. We had some other ones and we tested them, and they just could not get over any sort of noise. Like it just. I don't know what was going on with them.
Yeah, and they were top heavy. They'd fall over all the time.
Yeah. So we switched them out for these. And then, hearing people say, we'd like to see you. That was someplace I wanted to go anyway. And so the idea of like getting stuff that would be useful and visually pleasing, because at some point, hopefully people will see, that really started to come to, fruition. And so, in these earlier, that's where we started. We started, and in February, I had that pulled up, but not a big deal. In February, in 2 Corinthians, and since then we've done 2 Corinthians, we've done 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, and we're now over halfway through Romans.
Yeah.
And so
we've had like 3 podcasts on Romans. 3 or 4. I can't remember now. We've been in Romans a while.
A ton of podcasts on Romans. And it's only been 10 months, right? But the Lord has just been, there's that song, Great is Thy Faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. That's how I feel about every time I think about this podcast. I'm like, man, the Lord has just been faithful
in so many ways.
And like we decided, okay, well, we upgraded our mics, we upgraded our living area, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then I asked Casey. I said, do you think that the church would allow us to paint the walls in the office? Because you're looking at this picture here before, the room just felt like it just was very sterile. You know,
it looked that way since we built the room in 2002. I think.
It's just white. The ceiling's white. The walls are white. The underneath of the chair rail is white, and obviously it served its purpose great as an office. And it really still is an office. Like, we still use it that way. We have deacons meetings in here. If anybody ever wanted to talk about something serious, we could come in here.
Yeah.
And it's more of like I like it because it's not a like me versus you, like on the other side of a desk.
Yeah.
It's like hey, we're here together. Like, what do we need to talk about? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's dual purpose, really.
Yeah.
But it is now aesthetically pleasing, thankfully.
Yeah.
But I was like, I want to paint the walls basically black.
Yeah. I think it's called, I think the colors we have is like caviar maybe and panther or something
like that. Because you can't really tell, but the bottom is actually a different color than what the top is. And
darker.
You can only really tell when the overhead lights are up.
Yeah.
But, so, shout out to Kylie, thankfully. She painted a lot of this.
Yeah, you asked, like, do you think they care if we paint it? And me and all my boldness, I'm like, nah.
I don't think we even approved the color. Unfortunately, we probably should have asked. But what's great about it is people have popped their head in here and been like, that looks great.
Yeah.
And it's black. Like, the walls are black.
Honestly, they probably, like, if they knew I was painting, they probably didn't even think a thing about it. They were just like, well...
Yeah, that's just Casey and one of his wild hairs again.
Yeah, there he is. Whatever.
But yeah, so we painted the walls black, and that's because it helps the visual for everything else to look more aesthetically pleasing. Not because we're like Satanist or anything.
Yeah.
We like it just makes everything pop like it's supposed to pop. Yeah, and it looks cool. It's a very relaxing atmosphere. Casey, I even noted here. That he, just comes here to relax because it is a relaxing atmosphere.
It is.
It doesn't feel like a doctor's office anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's very just, a nice chill place for us to.
Yeah. And in that picture, that was before we kind of like, we got all of our equipment up on the table.
Yeah, I was going to show. So as this progressed, then we were like, okay, now that we have the visually pleasing things, we'll get on, and we'll start recording it. Well, thankfully, I had gotten into photography, which I've been into photography. Well, I did photography in 4-H back in, when I was 12 or whatever. So I've been into photography. And so I got a camera. But before that, actually, now that I think about it, this was just the Mevo camera, right?
Yeah.
So this was our sanctuary camera. And as you can see...
We're mean mugging there. Look at those guys.
We have... we have so this was... 13 weeks ago. That's the amazing thing too. Is like once we switched to also having the visual, is we have just progressed very rapidly.
Yeah.
Thankfully, and I think part of it was we started to pour our heart a little bit more into it. Mm-hmm. Part of it, obviously, the backing of our church has been a wonderful thing, but you can see the mics we still have, and then we kind of just ran everything on top of the table here. And I had kind of anticipated needing to adjust stuff more. I don't know why, because most of the time you set all that stuff and forget about it.
Yeah, which is totally the case.
Which I didn't, I just never really thought about.
I mean, we're fairly new. As we say at work, we're fairly new. So what benchmark did we have for knowing, like we've been learning as we go.
Yeah.
On everything.
Yeah, and like even we had like the microphones and stuff kind of like tied together in a nice package here, and it just what we realized is some of it just wasn't functional, some of it didn't look good, and then here was the quality of our Mevo. Like this is an episode you never got to see.
Yeah,
we talked about it a lot.
I guess that was our second mess up. So we have
we did have we had an audio mess up and we had a visual mess up.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even, I think probably it doesn't matter because whatever I was writing on here, it was all washed out.
You couldn't even see
by the fact that we didn't have, all we had was this overhead lighting.
Ethan had some really good stick drawings that he did.
Yeah, I was doing some real good stuff up here. Casey had this great idea to put a TV up and so we were like, hey, we can use that. And probably more for Foreword Podcast most of the time. But it was just washed. I mean, you can see the quality. This is basically the way the video looked from the way I remember. because the Mevo is great for what it does, but it's
I don't look happy there. I look like you've told me to shut up about Shane and Shane, and I'm like,
yeah, I'm like, on this podcast, we will not talk about it.
Yeah. You know what's funny though? I have a Shane and Shane reference. I'll say this. So they had that movie, The Light of the World, that came out, and so Shane Everett was talking about how the interviewer asked him how did the two of them stay together for as long as they had? Because, bands come and go, even Christian bands, and they're like, what has sustained you? And he said, it's really interesting because I didn't realize it, but they've been together for like 22 years. And so they both started out.
I was looking back at some of their albums, and I was like, this is...
They dropped out of college at the same time.
2003.
There's a whole story, so you'll have to go out and listen to it because it is really interesting, even if you're not like Shane and Shane obsessed. Like, it is an interesting story, but they dropped out of college and started touring together, and then they kind of had their own life. Like, they got married at different times. They each had kids at different times. Like, they had all this stuff that happened, but they kind of stayed together. And so he's like, how do you sustain that? And he said, well, we discovered early on that they have different roles kind of too. He said, for instance, we learned that Shane Bernard, he's very creative. And he said, so I kind of let him be creative. He's like, we each have our own studios. We each do our own thing, but he's like, he's very creative. And he goes, and I keep everything organized. He's like, yeah. I'm like the business guy. He goes, I make sure everything is in order. And he's like, and Shane's creative. And so when they asked us to do this movie for Light of the World, he's like, Shane went in. It's so funny to hear them talk about each other because Shane and Shane.
Yeah.
But he's like, Shane went in and he recorded this line, and then I got all the contacts set up for it, and then we got together, and then he goes in and he does the harmony with it and does all the parts, and it's interesting. But he's like, we learned early on not to be frustrated. He goes, that's how we learned how to work together, not be frustrated. And I think for us doing this podcast, there's never any frustration on any part because, and it's not the same way where it's just one person does all this and the other person does the other. But I think my point there is that they figured out what works well together. Mm-hmm. And that has how they've been able to do that for 22 years is because despite what's going on in their lives, they've kind of figured out what works for them. And then they just run with it on everything. They just run with it. There's not that much planning. And I think early on, I don't know that we ever planned that much.
No.
Really. Maybe a little, maybe a little bit. As we go, we'll see things kind of build up steam and pick up, and that's kind of like you did the guitar stuff, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I want to create a graphic for it, and so I do that, and then you get the table, and I'm like, now we need lights, and we kind of go off of each other that way. But
and that kind of is a good segue to this. So this is when I got my camera, and we were able to record a little bit better quality. But no matter what I did with the camera. We just look like ghosts. Yeah. And still this has, you can see
the
overhead light inside of our graphic here, and it served its purpose. But as we started talking, I think there's only been one real frustration, and that was and it wasn't between us. It was just when we got those blue and black mics. We just could, we probably worked for 3 hours just trying to get them to sound good.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're like, well, we just need to accept that, this is the wrong thing for us.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were great mics or whatever, or there was something that with the light, whatever, they just didn't work here. But I said, well, I found these are a little bit more simple, and we went with them and we plugged them in, and they were the next time, when we got them all together, and they have worked fine. Mm-hmm. All the same settings from the other mic.
Yeah,
they just work
great.
Like this.
They don't fall over. We were knocking into them. They had a big filter that came off of it, and it looked cool, but they were top heavy. And,
and this is just perfect. The filter pops on, and we think they're aesthetically pleasing. But so then we got this, and this was October 25th when we made this post, so nine weeks ago, according to this, and this is what it looked like, but. I don't know about you. I just wasn't pleased. Mm-hmm. I'm like, hey, if we're going to do this, we're doing it for the Lord. We want it to be,
the best we can do.
Yes, we want it to be presentable, and so, here you can see the difference between the colors.
Yeah.
And so Casey had this great idea. He was like, hey, I'm gonna we should take all of this stuff off the table. And then there was like, I told Casey, I said, I've been seeing these podcasts where like when one person talks and like I don't know, that he thought it was a great idea until, maybe he thought it was a great idea until he's going to have to watch.
No, I thought it was a good idea, but I was like, yeah, that's a lot of editing.
Who's going to do that
Who's
work?
Edit this. I'm like, no, it was good though.
Yeah.
Again, though, because I'm listening to it a second time, there's benefit in that for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when I'm connected to the right wireless router, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, and so there's like been some kinks, but
but that's user error.
Yeah, and so I said like, dude, and then the Lord, like, I'd been praying about it, and the Lord was like, hey, if you want to do that back and forth thing, like, fine. And so I was like, well, I'm going to get the mics on me. That's an offering from me.
The cameras,
the cameras.
Yeah.
So I got these two little cameras, and you can see, like, the cool thing about our entire setup is that you can see the microphone sitting here, and you can see the
Osmos.
The Osmos, Osmo Action 5 Pros that record us, but it all just blends together so well.
They have these cool little cameras, like screens on the front. So like when I want to have my office moments, I can like make direct eye contact with the camera. Pretty cool. Actually, I need a shot for the graphic of us like actually looking this direction.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, and we'll do that.
Yeah.
No, at the end, it'll be you trying to find it right. Where was that at?
Yeah. So when you see the thumbnail, you'll know.
Yeah, that's what we did. And so, the lighting wasn't great with the first camera. And then we got these, and we started making the back and forth content, 7 weeks ago, where you can see me and you can see Casey.
And we're yellow.
The problem is that we're yellow. Because no matter how much you adjust the camera, and with the overhead lighting, you can't see either one of our eyes because we both have hats on.
Yeah, and I'm going to be wearing my hat because,
And so I was like, because me too, man. My hair is so long at the moment. But I was like, well, I like it. I like what we've been doing, but it's just, there's just still something about it. And then we were like, hey, let's get some lights. Let's get some actual podcast lights. And we did that. Like we have these, which I'll turn my camera around here in a bit, and so you can see the light set up there. One of the big problems is that it looks like we were stuffed into the wall because that's what we were, stuffed into the wall.
Literally, like we would be up against the wall, and I'd hit it, and I'd kick it with my feet. You know?
And so. And it looked awkward in this shot because it's like you're literally just in the wall. And so then Casey had this great idea. Hey, let's put everything down on a table over here. Let's bump the table out, and it makes it look a little bit more organic, you know. And so that's where we're at today. And Casey made this difference between, you can see here, here we are, that first recording with a good camera.
Yeah.
And this is what it looks like now. And this is just like the same camera.
Yeah.
Just the difference in lighting.
Just weeks apart.
Which I'll show you guys. So Casey graciously, I think this is where he donated some of his own money.
Yeah.
We got these lights, and it really changes the whole. Dynamic because it keeps everything from being washed out. And it just creates this better atmosphere. And then Casey, out of his own kindness, also bought us these
/obsession.
The purple lights. They just bring it all together.
Yeah,
it's like, are they necessary? Do you have to have them? No. We could be, we could have been okay just doing. The top picture, fine. We would have been fine if that's where it went. But again, always just striving to create something that we feel like is pleasing to the Lord. We were like, well, for us, this just doesn't feel good enough.
Yeah, and it's fun for us too. I mean, because you're doing something for the Lord doesn't mean that you can't like enjoy what you're doing, right? Like we would say that about the podcast. Like not only is it like build us up, but we enjoy what we're doing. But like adding these little things, making it better, it's like we want to glorify God. We want to do more things. We want it to be the best that it can be, and we enjoy doing it. So it's fun. Like, it wasn't a hardship for me to like add the lights, to get the LED lighting. Like, it was like, oh man, like I feel like I can contribute something to this to make it even better. Like, I want to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's been the greatest part about it is it's never been like pulling teeth. This has never been something that, for me, has been like, oh, this is burdensome or.
And you've had a lot going on. Not that I don't have stuff going on, but not near to the level that like you have going on. I mean, like, you can talk about this, but like, you literally got married, like in the midst of us doing all of this stuff.
Yeah, somewhere in here. I mean, what was that? October 25th was one of these. That was like right after I got back from my honeymoon.
Yeah,
but still, just, I mean, the Lord is still more important than my marriage, right? So that's the thing. Like, and that doesn't mean the podcast is more important than my marriage, but what the Lord is doing is more important than anything, right? Yeah. And we talked last podcast, we talked about how Jesus said, hey, you got to hate your wife, hate your mom, hate your, but he didn't mean it like you need to hate these people. You need to love God more than all of these other things. So if I feel like the Lord has asked me to do something, I'm going to do it. And this for me has just been it's been a creative outlet.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's been an area where I feel like we can just let our creativity fly.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this thumbnail.
I love that. I saw that. And I'm
this is from one of the earlier ones.
Yeah.
Where I'm yellow, and I'm like, you
over there.
Yeah. Hey, you. Next week we're releasing a new episode. Yeah. And Casey gets to tap into his creative side as well.
And those are fun to make.
This wasn't that long ago either, December 18th.
And it gives me a reason to like blow Ethan's phone up because I send these graphics to him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm working on them, but it's like, who else am I going to send them to? Like, nobody else cares if I'm like making some of these things. I'm like, I'm just going to blow his phone up, and that he's just going to have to like it,
Yeah. Well, and I don't mind. I mean, I never mind talking to Casey about anything really. Especially when it comes to the pod stuff. But I mean, this is a great example. Obviously, you're listening to this now, so this is,
I love this
if you're watching this is what you're seeing at the moment, because this is the I would say probably the last iteration.
Yeah, I think so.
It'll probably be like this for a while.
Yeah.
But you can see the stark difference from where we started to where we're here. I mean, we even just, the thing that we understand is that if it's visually pleasing, we say don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
But people do, right? So if it's visually pleasing, I think people are more apt to click on this than they are on this.
Yeah.
And our hope is that they clicked on it because it was visually pleasing, but then they found the gospel, right? Which I think, to bring it around to, like, really that's been our whole goal, is we want to create something that we believe that the Lord is in it, and the Lord is blessing us, and his faithfulness has been solid and continuous the whole entire way. But we want to create something that if you're gonna click on it, and it's just audio, that there's a description there that just says like this is what it is. This is what you're getting into when you click on this. If you're gonna click on it because you want to watch something, we were like, hey, that's where we have definitely an area to improve. We made the audio good really early on, but we can improve more than just this washed out lighting here with all of this stuff on the desk. And even then, like, we could have moved these papers or whatever this is, but to where we are now, which is what you're seeing down here on this bottom screen, and obviously if you're watching, this is what you're seeing as well.
I think we've locked in a little more though too. Like we really
something about this setup is just.
I have freedom to move for that sort of thing.
You're not hitting the wall. Just the way that everything has come to the way that it is now. Yeah. It's very, and sometimes I kick this table under here, but that's just because I need to stretch my legs.
Yeah, I do that too.
Other than that, like, the way that everything is now, it just feels very comfortable coming here and have a conversation. And that's the good thing. We set the atmosphere just with the idea of like, we want it to be cool in here. We want it to look visually pleasing. It's very functional the way that it is. But at the end of the day, our biggest hope is not that we look cool. It's that something catches someone's eye enough to say, boom, I want to watch this. And that, to me, if you take something seriously, if it needs work, you're going to do the work.
Yeah.
Right.
And people can sense like authenticity also. Like you can tell if something is like real or if it's put on. Right. And so like when we go back to SoundCloud and we look at that early podcast, like that first podcast we did, nobody could see us. Right.
Yeah.
But like I can go back and listen to that and I can tell like, hey, this is the first time that these two dudes have ever sat down and actually had a conversation. Right.
Yeah.
Like we talked at the back door, but you'll say something like you'd prompt me for a question, like you'd prompt me for something, and I'd be like, so let me pull this random thing out and talk about it, because like I think we were trying to, not only were we trying to get a feel for the podcast, like for actually sitting down and recording something and like getting to know like what we're gonna say. Like I had to learn kind of like how you would talk. Or like what you would say, or like kind of where you were at, just like you kind of had to learn that about me, I'm sure. And then like as we move on, not only are we like kind of on the podcast itself, kind of developing like kind of the back and forth, like going back to Shane and Shane. Do you think the first time they ever sat down and sang together, they had a real feel,
real fluid type?
Yeah, probably not. But like now, like. I don't have to sit down here and think like, I wonder what Ethan's going to say about this, or I wonder how this is going to go. Like it's just like, we just sit down and we just do it. Right. But like, you've got like that kind of the podcast dynamic, right? Where we're like kind of had to learn, like I had to kind of grow into the podcast, and like you were kind of having to learn like kind of how I'm going to operate too. But then we also build a relationship outside of the podcast. And I think that dictates like kind of how we go, because like before I was just thinking like, okay, Casey, you're going to go on the podcast. This is the first time we've ever done it. Like, are you going to sound dumb? Like, you don't want to misrepresent the Lord in any way. So like, are you prepared to do this? And then like, how's this going to go?
Yeah.
And then I don't have that thought anymore. And I think people can sense authenticity. Like you can tell when somebody is like not comfortable in what they're doing. Yeah. And like now I'm comfortable.
Yeah, and part of that has just been changing the environment of this place. And like if we were to, well, now I've done it because I've accidentally.
And again, this is kind of like where I let Ethan control the computer because he actually, I don't let him. He was doing the sound because he's the sound dude, and then that became like, now you have to be in charge of the TV and the graphics and everything, and so that's a lot less pressure on me.
Which, I mean, pray for Casey, because this is going to be a nightmare to edit, from the back and forth to the, hey, they need to be able to see this.
Hey, it's all good. Hey, you know what? Just like kind of bring this around again. Like the podcast is probably one of the greatest things in my whole life. Not just the podcast, like having the podcast, having Ethan, having the opportunity to do this in the church, like to get to spread the gospel and to do all this. Like the editing is a very small part of it.
To get to the real purpose.
Yeah.
Which, we are just thankful, really, that what this 2025 recap is we're thankful. I mean, we're able to go to, which not as many people listen on SoundCloud anymore, because that was just a launch point.
Yeah.
But whenever you're able to go here and it's like, hey, we've had 12 different countries listen to us. Yeah. There's probably 100 cities listed over here on the left side.
If you go to YouTube, if you go to Google and type in Clay City First Church Podcast, your first search results are always SoundCloud.
Yeah.
So I think that is like the clickable, the drivable link.
But then it takes you.
That's not what we're promoting.
You can go other places. But obviously, the majority of our listens have been in America, United States of America. But we've had the next majority, which isn't a whole lot. We get listens from Singapore, which is like I never would have guessed. And we don't think that this is going to turn into like a global thing. But
the Rewind podcast is a global phenomenon.
But we're open to it, I guess.
He'll never put the Lord in a box, like he'll do what he wants to do. But
I think one of the greatest things for me about the podcast is that what it has been for me is just an opportunity where I don't have to think about all of the other stuff that's going on in my life. Even to get up to give a sermon, there's some weight to that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm sure.
Whereas this is a lot more like, it's just more free, and I don't mean that like being, giving a sermon is not free, because realistically I'm just relying on the Lord to say whatever he wants to say. But this is like, it's comfortable. We get to sit down. I get to talk to one of my best friends and we just, we're able to talk back and forth and it's been a huge blessing. And just the fact that, like, to go back to what Dave said, like, this is a ministry.
Yeah.
Like, the Lord has turned it into a ministry. And, 24 followers on Instagram,
Yeah.
But we've got more followers. What did you say, 67?
Yeah. Plus, I mean, we share this stuff on the
YouTube,
on the church Facebook page, which has almost 500 followers. And so there's traction that comes from that, community members, businesses, things like that. So we do get the word out that way.
And I mean, so as far as like success is concerned, this has been successful since day one.
Yeah.
It's done what the Lord wanted to do for our friendship. It's done what the Lord wanted to do for our church. So we're not looking at these numbers or these countries to say, like, oh, well, this is the way we're defining our success, because we've always been transparent about the fact that if it was just us and we were the only ones that did it or listened to it, that's what it, it's producing something in us.
Yeah.
But it's just cool that the Lord in his faithfulness has caused it to run a little bit further than what we can imagine.
Like, you can't see it, but we have some art over here on the wall, that's scripture art that says iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And it's like that's
the
the truth from
goal
day
of our
one.
podcast.
Yeah, it's like from day one, that's what it's been. Like, from the moment I sat down in that 2 foot away from the floor chair, it's been like an iron sharpening iron situation. And again, that's kind of like you said at the very beginning. Like, it's a shame that not everybody gets to have that experience of coming around this table and sitting it. But like, I know that the pod has been good for me, like you said, kind of like break me out of my shell to be able to talk about this stuff and grow in the church and different things. But it's also just been good for me personally. And I feel like it's like the Lord's seen me through like different seasons. Like, I know you've had different seasons in this time. Like, you talked about how we both started out single and now you're married and now you've got a little one on the way. And so like, that's a whole season for you. I have a whole different season, and yet we're able to kind of like work through those together. And it's like, outside of the podcast, I know that I don't have to, like, I can say anything. Yeah. There's like everybody else on the planet, I have to, like, I kind of control what I say or hold this in or hold that. And I know, like, sorry for you maybe, but I'll just tell you whatever, I'll just say whatever. And that's freeing,
It really is. Well, and we get the opportunity to talk about something that is this is the biggest part of our life. This is the biggest aspect of our lives is our relationship with God. Like, that has to be first. And if it's not first, like, that's where it needs to be. So, maybe for some of you, this podcast is helping you put God first. We don't know. We can speak of is what it's done for us.
Yeah.
And if it's just for us, we're great with that. Mm-hmm. But thankfully, the Lord has made it more than just for us, and we've got a slow following, but it's building. Yeah. And we talk about our plans for 2026. Hopefully, like we said, we can consistently get that Facebook Live out there. Mm-hmm. I think it was a wise thing to start off by not really advertising it much, because you want to get those kinks worked out.
Yeah.
Just like we kind of tested video recording before we were like, hey, we're just going to start. We're going to be on there. But, in 2026, like, that's a big part of the plan. Like, let's get the Facebook or let's get YouTube Live where we can start live streaming the services so people can see them again. I don't know. I think we're hoping to have a lot more people on. For 2026, a lot more guests,
more forewords.
But just like with everything, like, the Lord kind of work through the kinks with us along the way before we could really start having people on, even though it was our desire. Like you go back probably to three months in and we were like, we're going to have somebody on hopefully soon.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Brittany came. Well, I mean, we had Dave on.
Yeah.
In
that early podcast.
Yeah. In the early days. And then we had Brittany on, and then we realized, hey, we probably need to get a third camera. And so we've got a third camera and hoping to get a fourth, so we can have 4 people on at once. But like our goals for 2026 now that we just have everything like established, it feels like we're at the point on the podcast where we were a year ago with the church. Like we had it, we could breathe a sigh of relief because everything is established.
Yeah.
Now we can just build off that. And the Lord used this last 10 months to establish everything. Yeah. Now we can just, we come in, set the camera up, set these cameras up, and we just run with it.
Yeah.
And that's been a really good part of the ministry process, is just working out all the stuff that needs worked out, but always remaining true to the Word, and talking about the things the Lord wants us to talk about. And in 2026, that's not going to change.
Yeah.
But we don't know what the Lord will do.
Yeah. It means more when we build it from scratch, though. It's just like the Constitution. Like, it took so much work, but that when we saw that end result and saw how the Lord was moving through it, then it's like, man, we own this. Like this is something that is going to stand the test of time. And like the same thing, like if we had just come in here and the studio was all set up and you and I didn't know each other from Adam, and we just sat down and started talking, like it wouldn't have been authentic. We wouldn't have known each other. We would have not had the pressures of like, we got to learn how to do the camera, and we got to figure out the sound, and we got to, do all this stuff. Well, it became teamwork, and it became like growing together in it. And then now that we've hit this point, it's like, okay, we're not just news anchors that came into an already set up studio. I mean, you know what I mean? Like we had to build a studio. We had to build a following. We had to
nobody looked into this room a year ago and said, that's a podcast studio.
Yeah.
Nobody. I would challenge you to find one person.
Yeah. And nobody would have looked at me a year ago and said, that guy is going to sit down with the pastor every week and do a 2-hour-long podcast.
Yeah, the Bible. But it's been great, and kind of what Casey was talking about with the parts, I got the cameras, Casey got the lighting, Casey got the TV, we've just, the church has helped us immensely with all of this stuff. I mean, they've done the biggest share as far as the buying of the stuff. But we've just been led by the Lord to get the stuff that we felt like we could get and we could provide. Yeah. And for 2026, really, truly, now that we have this foundation, and we've been able to have a couple people on as guinea pigs. They probably didn't realize that.
Yeah, they didn't know what they were getting into.
But now we're able to say, hey, we can set up a third one of these or a fourth one of these just right away.
Room for 6. I mean, we've got 3 cameras now, but we've got room for 6 speakers.
We do, and we can always run the whole side of the table with one camera. Who knows? One of these we might have 6 cameras. That would be great. That's kind of that's the expansion part of 2026, is just to get more stuff. And we have the other 2 mics that we can set up for 6 people, but we just haven't had an opportunity yet to have that many people on. But I would say, obviously, the beginning of 2026, we're looking at probably having a 4-person podcast at some point, and just continuing on with our Bible study, making sure that we do our recaps for our Bible studies.
Yeah.
Well,
I think we just want to thank our listeners too, because and watchers now. Because as that steadily climbed, I know that there's people that watch it because they come up to me and they say hey, we saw you on video and we loved what you were talking about, or when are you going to do more of those, or I like the dynamic, or whatever. And so I've heard compliments, and not because I want to boast it up, but it does good to know that people like what we're doing, and that people are listening, and that it makes a difference in their lives, because we know it makes a difference in ours.
Well, and the response that we had to the YouTube, where we're like, hey, we need 50 subscribers, because if not, we can't live stream. And it just within a week.
Yeah, we're at 63 now, I think. Yeah,
just, I won't say skyrocketed, but for us, it really did. As far as, the sky was 50 and it, we surpassed that. So,
and not like just drag this out, but we talked about Constitution a lot on this one, but I mean, there were so many things that happened in this last year that were crazy. Like, if you don't know, like, you have a church in Terre Haute, Greenwood Baptist.
Yeah.
And like, we had a baptism service there. And like, so many people like had, maybe been baptized
we talked about
as
the
babies.
baptism service, didn't we? That was when Dave came on.
Yeah, I think we did maybe. And just people that wanted to be baptized as an adult. And so that was a big service. Or we had like Good Friday, and we spent that whole week having the Good Friday service at Greenwood. And then they came down here recently for a Christmas inspiration, even though the weather wasn't great. And so there's kind of like all of this other stuff that's happening too that like we've gotten to take part in.
Yeah.
And so like the Constitution kind of got us to a certain point, but then we were like just, running the race the rest of the way. And so now for the podcast, I think it's kind of the same thing. We've hit this point now. Who knows what we're going to do? You and I talked a little bit about like for the, I think it was the Beef Manhattan dinner. We're like, we got a lot of community people coming in for this dinner. Like, what if we do a pod then? And just, we don't know if that'll happen, but just different things like that. Like, the sky's the limit now. Whatever the Lord wants us to do, like, we're set up.
I think it'd be cool to do a live, like
Absolutely.
Not a live pod, but or maybe even do it live. But like when we have something like that, bring people in from the other room, you know, and be like, hey, do you want to be on the podcast? And just and just keep adding to it. I mean, there's no reason that we can't. Yeah, like have people sit down and, hey, give us 10 minutes of your time. And then the next person, give us 10 minutes of your time. Would love to interview more of the congregation. There are certainly people that have stories and things that can be told. But, and who knows what 2026 will bring. What I am confident of is that as long as we can continue to make this about the Lord. We've used I a lot, or we, or this podcast, or whatever. But I think one of the last things I want to say is we wouldn't be here doing any of this if it wasn't for the Lord.
Absolutely.
And that has been our sole purpose all along. If we could certainly look cooler, we could certainly do, we could put on big productions. We could do, if it was to catch. If it was just for the idea of we just want to run with our own ideas and we just want to put our own agendas out there so that we can catch the type of people we want to catch, then it would have fizzled. But because it's been about the Lord and that's the way it's going to continue to be, 2026, I think we'll look back and do a recap of 2026 and go, holy cow. Whoever would have thought we'd be at this point. And I really feel that about 2025. Like, never would have thought sitting at that pastor's desk with you, seeing this much of your face. No, it's not. It wasn't that much.
It felt like it.
It was like you were the guy off of Home Improvement.
Behind the fence.
Where you were on the other side of the fence, and I'm just trying to talk to you. It wasn't that bad, but it was close. Who'd
have thought?
Who'd have thought we'd be here? And I'm just.
It's been a wild,
thankful.
It's been a wild journey. I mean, it really has. But it's been like I said earlier, it's been probably one of the greatest blessings of my life, and I don't say that.
Me too.
I don't say that lightly. I mean, I truly mean that.
No, me as well. I think one of the, and I probably said it before, but one of the greatest things about this is that I can be worried about a lot of other stuff, and I know on podcast day, like I can at least shut it all out for a bit. Like even like the times when I had my stomach stuff going on, or like I've got this stuff going on with my spine now, but like to me, like I can just sit here and have this conversation, and I'm not worried about my health. The only thing that I ever get nervous about is, I've got a wife at home, and I left the house at 7:50, and now it's 10:50. But I did tell her it was probably going to be till 10:30.
And I always say, like, just throw me under the bus because it's fine.
Yeah, and that's the good thing. Cases, just blame me.
Just blame me.
Just say Casey took too much time.
Yeah, it's all good.
But I mean, I think just to wrap it up, I think for Casey and I, we're thankful to the Lord first and foremost, because we know without him this would never have gotten to the point that it is. And we're thankful for the support that we've had, like people listening to the Lord, especially thankful to our church who, without their, who knows where we would have to have this at. The fact that they have given us money to buy things.
And they pray for us and
absolutely
care about it,
Yeah, and care about us. When you really sit and think about it, it almost makes you emotional to think like
it's humbling.
These people care that much.
Yeah.
Or they're not concerned that we're going to do something to tarnish their name or to make their church look bad. Yeah. They just trust us. Yeah. And I'm thankful for that trust.
And I think about that, like, again, not to drag this out, but just like when you said, like, I don't know why I asked you. Like I don't know why you asked me. I don't know either. I don't know, but like I can see the evidence of it now, and it's like, man, I'm really glad that you did.
Yeah, me too. I don't know what we'll do when Casey has his own wife and a baby on the way, because he's not going to have time to edit all this. But hey, maybe by then we'll have an assistant.
Maybe you never know.
We'll have both
would be a surprise.
You have those. They have those podcasts where there's somebody off. And they're like, "Hey, Lenny, pull up the
footage.
Yeah, pull up
the
graphic for us
that you built, because we didn't have time.
Yeah, because we're just too busy populating the earth.
Yeah,
but
in the meantime, I will be editing the video.
In the meantime, Casey's going to be editing the videos.
Yeah, and pray for him because his wife wants him to be home.
Yes, exactly. We're going to continue to serve the Lord. And we're going to continue this podcast for as long as the Lord wants us to. So certainly in 2026 and hopefully beyond. Yeah. So we, as we always say, and we truly mean this from the bottom of our hearts, we love you guys, and we will see you here in 2026.
See ya.